Hey there everyone, happy Monday. It's Janet Wakeland here with RemARKably Created, and I'm excited to kick off something that I think is fun and I hope that you enjoy. In the coming weeks and months, I'm going to be posting several times a month different card layouts and different types of fun card folds, and together we're going to create masters of them. We're going to build a library of all of those things so that you have at your fingertips really quick ideas to mix up your card making at home. So we're going to start first with this really simple one here. It's a great use of those designer series paper scraps. And while I did give you some dimensions, you could actually be using smaller pieces. I just thought those dimensions would give you something to start with and to cut down. So we're going to jump right in and we're going to kind of look at some variations and all kinds of good stuff. So in order to follow along, you need the dimensions of paper that I gave you and a trimmer. If you don't have all of those things handy, you can simply hit pause and go get them and come back and rewatch the live video, or you can simply watch all the way to the end. And of course, all of my videos are saved under the media tab and you can come back and watch them at any time. So the very basis of this, let's start first with just a piece of designer paper. And all of our strips are going to end up being 4 inches, and I want the pattern to end up this way. So I'm going to cut it sideways. So all of our pieces, and that'll be a good scrap to save for later. So the first piece is 1 inch and 1 inch and 1/4. Okay. And again, we'll go over these numbers a few times throughout the entire video. So 1 inch and 1/4. And the more precise you can be, it's always better. The next one is simply 1/2 inch. You'll see when I'm slipping and sliding it around. I should go from the other direction. I'm just so used to going this way. And then another one would be 3/4 inch. So they're all 4 inches in length, okay? And then one is 1 1/4, 3/4, and 1/2 inch. Then what you need is we need to put them on something. In this case, I've chosen just white cardstock to get us started, but you could use contrasting cardstock, in this case, Pacific Point, Old Olive, whatever works for you. But I just had you bring white because it works. And so in this case, we need a piece of cardstock that is going to be 4 1/4, which this one is already cut to, and 3 inches. So 4 1/4 by 3 inches. Then what? Now I just chose 1 sheet of paper. You'll see something different in a second. Then what you need to do is you need to decide, do you want your print? Now you can start to play. You know, do you want 2 contrast here? Okay. Do I want it to be large? Or large, small, medium? I mean, you can play around with these sizes based on whatever visually looks good for you, okay? And then of course we do need to adhere them down. And a little tip with that, especially if you use liquid glue, is I just very lightly, I don't even press them in yet, I just kind of lightly lay them down on before I push them in, because I want the flexibility of moving them just a little bit, especially when I'm crafting and talking. I tend to not really pay as close attention to what I'm working on, because I just want that nice even white border the whole way around it. In this case, I want another bow. I want it to look like the bow is what is broken up. Okay, so that's just using 1 piece of paper, drawing attention to the different types of print on both sides. You could, of course, take contrasting pieces of paper, as we have here. And again, these are just scraps. You can see they were scraps I pulled out of my bin. And I'm going to already cut this down to 4 inches because that'll give me a nice piece to work with later. This one is going to be my 1 1/4 inch. I want the pumpkins to really pop. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to toss in some of our plaid. I love our plaid, and I'm going to do that at 3/4. I want to keep it kind of with the black going. And then we'll cut that down to 4 inches. So it's a great use of those scraps, and I know you all have scraps. Don't tell me you don't have scraps, right? And this one will be our 1/2 inch. And then again, if I was to take that piece of paper that is 3 inches by 4 1/4, if I was to lay them down, what I would get is something like this, right? Then if you're going to take your cardstock, whether it's cut, hot dog cut, 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, or whether it's cut 11 inches by 4 1/4, it's all going to pretty much work the same. You now have this decorated piece that you're able to center, put down in the corner. It actually would be top to bottom on your card turned lengthwise, but that still gives you lots of space for working and embellishing side to side, and you can definitely be having some fun with that. So just as a reminder, and I will put these back up in the description, 1 1/4 by 4 inches, 1/2 inch by 4 inches, 3/4 by 4 inches. Okay, this is your strips. Okay, and then your background of those strips is 3 inches by 4 1/4. But remember, I said we're going to make a template, and this is something we'll do together in all of the videos going forward, and I'll talk to you about that master file. For me, I'm going to be choosing just to use vanilla as the background for all of mine, just because I don't use vanilla cardstock very often, and I seem to have a bunch of it in the studio. But just pick some neutral. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. And 4 1/4 by 3 inches. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take crumb cake cardstock, because it's easy to write on, it's easy to see numbers and things like that. And we'll do our 4 inches. And then we'll do our strips, just like we just did before. And 1 1/4 inches. And then we're going to do 3/4 inch. And we're going to do that 1/2 inch piece. And I'm going to go ahead and, did I do 1/2 inch? That seems awful tiny. Hold on just a minute. I'm like looking at this going, that's kind of small. I know I did not do 1/2 inch. Definitely was small. Sorry about that. See, talking and crafting and all of that at the same time, kind of like rubbing your head and patting your belly, right? So now I have these strips, and I can go ahead right on the strips. 1 1/4, 3/4, and this one is 1/2. I'll grab my piece, and I'm just going to put them on here. We'll put the next piece on, and again, I'm just putting them on in this direction. It's about remembering them. You could go left to right, you could mix them up. But it's more about having that number and having that master. And we're going to go ahead and we'll put that piece down. We're going to just adhere this piece to the card front. And I'm going to put it off to the side. I'm going to left justify it, because that way I can put 3 inches by 4 1/4 for the background. And now I have a master that I can go ahead and I can keep in a folder. It doesn't have to be a full-size card, and actually you'll get a lot more mileage when we're not doing folds if all we're doing is the front of a card. And you can just now then file that away. And we'll be talking next week when we do another layout about a really fun, easy way that you'll have of storing these and being able to access them. But again, just that quick and easy. I'll show you some samples of it, and then together I'll teach you how to make all of the cuts, and then we'll be creating a master together that you can file away. Some of the cuts have some names, known names. Some of them don't have any name at all. For me, it's not necessarily about having a name of the fold, because again, next week when I show you how to access them and how to start to store them and have them on hand, you'll understand why it really doesn't matter. But now let's look at some fun variations on just this simple little use. So this is our wonderful paper that is going to be unavailable in 2 more days. I simply fussy cut the little Edelweiss flower and laid it over top. And in this case, I just added a little bit of visual contrast with just a very edge of a circle, okay? Same layout, same dimension. For this one here, so this one goes right to left with the sizes. No, left to right, this one goes right to left. And in this case, I tucked a leaf behind and then a little bit of a leaf here, raised the greeting up across the front of it, and used the So Saffron as the background for it. For this one here, I went ahead and, again, in this case, left to right, and some of the designer papers from this pack of papers. Die cut the candy cane from our beautiful red glitter. The sweet is from the Sweet Cherries stamp set, and I thought it was perfect for a candy cane to have that. And then this simple one, I centered it, okay? And I just have 3 pieces of paper from our Rings of Love paper. Our Stylish Sentiments bundle. I cut the greeting out, very, very simple card. And in this case here, I matted a little extra soft suede. So you can see just how having one simple layout and dimensions of strips, and you can see by having something like that in your card library, your card folds, your card layout library, you're going to then have something you can grab, quickly use up some scraps, and then you can go ahead and create all kinds of variations on them. Again, a card could be turned this way, so you can see how turning it that way would work. I showed you how you could also lay it full on from end to end. Or again, you can turn it this way as well. I didn't do that for these, but again, even this size works landscape or portrait. So making yourself this little piece of card works great. And even a fun little challenge. Maybe you've got a bunch of scraps sitting around and, you know, just go ahead and cut yourself a whole bunch of 3" by 4 1/4 pieces, and then just start cutting some strips, and maybe even just having some of these ready to go to glue onto a card front with nothing more than just a greeting that you need for an occasion. So stay tuned. Like I said, a couple of times a month, especially we'll do one more next week to really get us into it, and next week so I can give you that organizational idea for your masters. But a couple times a month, we'll be creating master templates together, showcasing some varieties, and cutting pieces that you can use on a card. But it's not really any fun unless we can learn and share from each other our creative inspiration. So I'm going to challenge all of you that try this cut and this fold to create something using current Stampin' Up! Papers and post in the comments below. And anytime I do this type of tutorial with you, there'll always be several winners of prizes. So take some time, head off into your creative space, take this template, use it to create something fun, come back, post it in the comments, and then I'll be looking for winners. And that's open to anyone globally who follows me here on Facebook. So thanks, guys, and I will see you actually, you'll see me. I've got a couple other videos that have nothing to do with card making, but I will see you back next week for another really fun tutorial that uses like almost half a sheet of designer paper in its fold. So I think you're going to love that one as well. So thanks for popping on, guys.